With the addition of the 2023 draft class, who ranks in the top 10 of the Sharks prospect pool? All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now and Inside the Rink. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do, just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be diving into the ranking the top 10 prospects of the Sharks, especially now with the 2023 draft class, kind of seeing where those guys fit in, where guys moved up, where guys moved down. So a couple rules before we get into it. So some of my personal rules for it. So you have to be under 24 and you have to have played less than 50 NHL games. So a guy like Jacob Peterson, who the Sharks acquired last offseason, not eligible because he's played like 70 games already in the NHL. And then some of the other things to keep in mind with me is I go for the upside on players, right? So a guy like Henry Thrun, who is probably going to have a long NHL career, he's dinged a little bit because his upside isn't as high as a guy like Shakir Mukhamadullin, right? And there's a pretty good chance that Henry Thrun plays way more NHL games than Shakir Mukhamadullin, but I'm looking at it from a, kind of who can be that upside, right? That top tier, top shelf upside. So there's just a couple of rules to keep in mind as we're going through this ranking, right? So less than 50 NHL games, and you have to be under the age of 24. And I'm going for the upside, always going for the upside pick when it comes to ranking these guys, because we don't know with them. So there's still, guys like I said, guys like Shakir Mukhamadullin who have a wide variety of outcomes. I'm going to swing for the wide variety of outcomes compared to like a guy like Henry Thrun, who we know is probably going to be like your third or fourth defenseman on your team. But so before we get into honorable mentions and all that fun stuff, I did this list last August, and here was my list. So from 10 to 1, number 10 was Daniil. Number 9 was Daniil Gushchin. Number 8 was Filip Bystedt. Number 7 was Strauss-Mann, RIP. Number 6 was Mattias Hävelid. Number 5, Ryan Merkley, RIP. Number 4, Brandon Coe. Number 3, Tristen Robins. Number 2, Thomas Bordeleau. And then number 1, William Eklund. So that was my list last year at August last year, kind of going into it. So we can already see how much the list is going to be different, right? Because Ryan Merkley and Strauss-Mann, not even with the organization anymore. Guys moving up, guys moving down, the addition of some new guys. So before we get into the numbers 10, 9, and 8, do want to start with the honorable mentions, right? So these are the guys who just kind of missed the cutoff here of guys who should be, you could make an argument for him. So number 1 is Daniil, who was number 10 last year, missing the majority of the season last year, really, really hurt. And hopefully he can return to form this year. I expect him to be back in the WHL, especially since he played a whole 4 games with Victoria last year. If he had played and continued to have the expectation that the season that we expected out of him last year, there's a really good chance that he could be sniffing around like 6 or 7 in this list going into it. But, and potentially playing on the Barracuda this season, but missing basically an entire season. You're hoping that he can return to form and, find the game that he was really starting to build into before his hip injuries. So, also Magnus Krona. So He's probably going to be the number 2 goalie on the Barracuda. I still think his upside is, I think he's going to has a chance to be a really, really good second goalie for a team. I don't know if he can ever be like a star goalie, but I have him actually ranked higher than Eetu Makiniemi, just because Makiniemi we've seen the flashes, but we haven't seen the consistency, especially with health from Makiniemi, who has not been able to finish the last 2 seasons. So Corona takes this. He is the goalie right now for the Sharks. At least their best hope right now when it comes to the prospects. So, and then Luca Cagnoni just missed. He's number 11. Just missed the cut. You'll see it's right, with these small defensemen, right? It's very much you're either really great in the NHL or you never make it type of player. And I think the low risk, high reward for him. We saw a lot of flashes in the prospect scrimmage. No, I think Cagnoni, maybe this time next year, we're talking about, wow, what a steal Cagnoni was in the draft, because he goes back to Portland and has a big season. So let's get started, though, with the top 10. So at number 10 is Henry Thrun. Came in, looked really great for the Sharks last year, and after signing out of Harvard, the thing that dings him right is his ceiling, and I think he is going to be a fine NHL player. I think he's going to play a lot of NHL games and have a long career. It's just like I kind of mentioned before, right? Henry Thrun's probably your 3rd or 4th best defenseman on your team, and that's perfectly fine. And what the Sharks paid for him, getting a 3rd or 4th defenseman for a 3rd round pick. That's basically, you paid a 3rd round pick and he is already going to be playing in the NHL. That is great. Love it. I think he's going to have a very good season for the Sharks this year. It's just, I don't know if his offensive game is there for the Sharks, and that is something that they're going to, especially if Erik Karlsson gets traded, that is something that they're going to be searching for, and Henry Thrun will probably have a chance to do that. I just think it's a lot to ask for him to be that guy, especially with kind of his skill set. So, but Henry Thrun, could you see Henry Thrun being like 700, 800, 900 NHL games played type of player? I certainly could. And that is that, but again, probably more as like a middle pairing defenseman. So nothing to sneeze at. Henry Thrun is going to be a great pick for the Sharks. So, all right. And then at number 9, this might be a bit of a shock, but Tristen Robins. So Robins was ranked last year at number 3, down to number 9 this year. And this, I think, speaks to more of, one, how much deeper the prospect pool is right now. And 2, Robins had a really kind of up and down season last year, right? Started strong, the middle of the year really kind of struggled, and then the back end of the year kind of found his game, but was pretty quiet with his small debut with the Sharks last year. So Robins is going to he's going to be the guy, I think, on the Barracuda this year, him and Daniil Gushchin, at least to start the season, right? I think big season for a lot of these 2020 guys to kind of really start to try to put things together for them. So again, I still think Tristen Robins can kind of be a middle 6 forward for the Sharks going forward. But I think it also speaks to the depth and the quality of pieces that the Sharks have added in the past year since Mike Greer's taken over, with some of these other guys who are going to, kind of surpassed him as well. So, and even looking at some of the 2020 draft class guys who I think had maybe a little bit better years for the Barracuda, or have shown a little bit more consistency. So, again, nothing against Tristen Robins. I think it's more of a quality of players that have been added to the prospect pool here. So before we continue, we look at some of the defensemen who start to crack the lineup and some of the 2020 draft class. Do need to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. And I know it's just baseball season right now, but you still get that itch to maybe, you want to lay a little wood on a game, that's where FanDuel comes in. You can take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount and bonus bets up to $200. That's right, just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on betting everything from money line to the over-under to who do you think is going to win, get the first home run, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, number 8 here. So Mattias Hävelid. Last year, he was ranked number 6, dropped a little bit, and I think it's because it's the injury, right? Missed the first half of the season with an injury, but did have a strong second half of the year. So Hävelid did you noticed him every time he was on the ice in the prospect scrimmage game as well. I'm going to go back to Linkoping again. Don't expect, I think another season or two in SHL before he comes over to the AHL. But you can see, right, that puck moving, offensively oriented defenseman in him, and still can play defense as well, at least in, but I think being healthy for a full season here is going to be key for him. And he's going to get more opportunities on Linkoping next year compared to, kind of being that bottom pairing. I think he's going to start to kind of move up their prospect or their defensive charts here soon. So I still like Hävelid. I still think he is got an opportunity to be like that third, kind of that second right-handed shot. If you put like Thrun and Hävelid together, let's fly as a potential future pairing for the Sharks. Like that sounds great to me. So the next guy is Daniil Gushchin, who last year was ranked number 9 and worked his way up to number 7. So I think Gushchin started a little bit slow, but really came on strong at the end of the season for the Barracuda and played well with the Sharks too. I think he's going to be the guy for the Barracuda this year to start the season. And he has a potential second line scoring threat for the Sharks in the future. Could you see, that shot is absolutely wicked, but he's been building out the rest of his game, and you see that passing. You see him working on trying to be better in all other assets of the game. And I think another season with the Barracuda, and we're going to see him. I would expect him to kind of start the season with the Barracuda, and then around the trade deadline, I wouldn't mind if he has a good season, giving him a long run at the end of the year with the Sharks to kind of really get his feet wet and get ready for being a full-time NHL or the following year. So, with Gushchin, right, we know it's the shots there. It's can he, especially being a smaller winger, right? Can he do the other stuff that keeps you in the NHL? And I think he's, if I had to guess right now, I think he is, or if I had to kind of place wagers, I think he will be the AHL All-Star representative from the Barracuda this year. I just think he's going to have a big season this year for the Barracuda. So number 6, Thomas Bordeleau. So Bordeleau last year was ranked 2 behind one William Eklund, down to 6. And I could be overreacting from the bad second half. Maybe I'm putting too much stock into the second half of the season for a lot of these players, but looked great in the first half of the season. And then after the break even before the All-Star break, just kind of his game fell apart. It was quiet on the Sharks. He's until that very last game, which he said was his best game. And again, I think it comes down to the quality as well of players that have been added to the Sharks prospect pool as well. So with Bordeleau, though, I still, there's a potential second line player right there. But I think he needs to work on a lot of the other stuff, right? We know he can be a distributor and creator. And when he has the puck on his stick, he can do a lot of great stuff. It's the rest of the game, especially if you're going to be a centerman. when you don't have the puck on your stick, can you be an active defenseman, defender? Can you, I know defense is for nerds, but especially as a center, you got to kind of help out at least a little bit there, right? Can you back check? Can you, and I think there might be a little bit of an attitude type of thing of maybe he noticed he was getting passed by some of these other players. And I wonder if he kind of had a little bit of a bad attitude about it at the end of the season. So I think he said it, everybody knows this is kind of the put up, shut up year for Thomas Bordeleau as he tries to kind of figure things out. Don't be surprised if he starts the season on the Barracuda, but then quickly moves to the Sharks, especially if he has a good start to the season for his year. But that 4C position's open, but I don't know. Thomas Bordeleau doesn't feel like a 4. I think he needs to be a middle 6 type of player. He 2 years ago with Bob Bugner, he was he was that 30C, but they played him more like a 2C with Noah Gregor. That was kind of, very, very much insulated. I don't know if you can do that with him as your potential 4C type of player. So we'll see what happens with Bordeleau. I think he has to be one of those either top 6 guys or he's just not a contributor for you. So, and then at number 5, Shakir Mukhamadullin. So the defenseman the Sharks acquired in the Timo Meier trade. Really, we see the shot, we see everything, the KHL. I think after about the first week or so, the Barracuda really found his footing and was a strong contributor for them. Still going to need to work on his defensive game a little bit. And I think having a full offseason in San Jose, where you're going to be playing. I think we continue to see big strides out of, not just because he's 6'6", but we continue to see big strides out of Shakir Mukhamadullin this offseason or this season. And I think playing a majority of the season in the AHL, and then kind of like what we saw with Eklund last year, where after the trade deadline, you can bring him up, let him play some NHL games, and then be a full-time NHLer the season after. That's kind of been the Mike Grier recipe, right? Is let these guys continue to overripe in the AHL, and let him get used to the smaller ice, especially coming from the KHL. I know some of the ice sizes are a little funky over there, but just let him get used to the North American game. Really, I thought he had a really strong end to the season. Let's see if he can continue that, especially where he's going to kind of be the guy after Derek Pouliot's been signed with Dallas. Knyzev was traded. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to kind of be the number 1 defenseman on the Barracuda this season. So, and then number 4. Filip Bystedt. So Bystedt last year was ranked number 8 and has jumped up to number 4 with the Sharks this year. And I think you can point to a strong season in the SHL, playing third line minutes. I fully expect him to go back next year and be and go back to Sweden next year. And then as soon as the SHL season's over, he will be over here in San Jose making his North American debut. But over in the SHL, he's probably going to be either the first or second center over there. He was, by the end of the season, he was their 2C. Continue to see that development playing against grown men over there. And I think, a lot of us were like, the mea culpa on the pick from 2021 or 2022 now of was this a reach, et cetera, et cetera. You had Brad Lambert there. Filip Bystedt is turning out to be a fine player, and I think is going to be the long-term Sharks 2C at some point. So huge season from Bystedt, and I think the World Juniors for a lot of Sharks fans, seeing him kind of game in, game out was really eye-opening for us, and especially playing against his peers, or at least people the same age as him. So I think Bystedt is going to continue to have a big season this year. We're going to see more and more production from him. I mean, one that was the rookie of the year, the SHL last year. I expect a big season out of Bystedt and really kind of solidify himself as one of the Sharks' top 5 prospects this year with another massive season. So before we get into the top 3, which I'm sure you guys can all figure out by a matter of, just being Sharks fans, you can figure out. Do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do is just come back tomorrow, where I'm going to dig into some, if Erik Karlsson gets traded, who is going to run the power play, and look at some in-house candidates, look at some guys, free agents, and give the chaos theory, which if you've read my article on Inside the Rink, you guys know. But going to dig into that tomorrow, so make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. All right. The top 3. So number 3, Quenton Musty, the 2023 first round pick number 26. You could see the whole package, right? The size, the speed, the skill, stole the show at the prospect scrimmage. A lot of people had him as a top 15, potentially top 12 pick, and the Sharks got him at 26. Don't be surprised if Quenton Musty is hanging around training camp a little bit longer than you expect. And don't be surprised if Quenton Musty is potentially playing some NHL games this year. Plays his 9 games before going back to Sudbury. Talking to our friend Max Miller from the Hockey News, David Quinn seems to love Musty. Like I said, the Sharks have a lot of holes in their forward department, and Musty looks like a guy who can really fill a role eventually for the Sharks. So he'll, like I said, wouldn't be surprised if he plays some NHL games, but expect him to go back to Sudbury this year and just have a monster season in the OHL. Remember, this was the first overall pick in the OHL at one point, the year he was drafted. I think the Sharks got an absolute steal here, and I think he is the next 3 prospects could be your potential first line of the future type of thing here. So, which would be pretty sweet if you ask me. If these next 3 guys are your first line of the future. So, yeah, he's going to be really good. He's going to be really good. I think the Sharks got a steal, and a lot of teams are going to be kicking themselves that they didn't pick Quenton Musty a couple years from now. So number 2, William Eklund. So Eklund has been the number 1 prospect in the Sharks prospect pool for the past 2 seasons, basically since they drafted him. And this is probably the last time he's going to be in the prospect pool, because if going by my rules of playing 50 NHL games, I think he plays a full season in the NHL, and I don't think he goes back to the AHL ever again. So, but William Eklund, though, I mean, you saw him really facilitate or really kind of work on the rest of his games. You saw the scoring last year, which had been missing the past couple of years. He's got, you're seeing the muscle build. I know he's dealing with his shoulder injury, but it sounds like he's going to be skating here soon. Going to be, finishing up his rehab, going to be ready to go for training camp. He's been working hard to try to build the rest, kind of work on his body, continue to work on his body, even though he's, does have the shoulder injury, but sounds like rehab is going great and he should be ready to go for the Sharks. And I think, he'll be playing a top 6 role for the Sharks, whether if he's playing on Couture or Hurdle's wing. There's definitely some holes on the Sharks roster right now, but I think Eklund's going to be a future first line player for the Sharks, and I think he's going to be amazing. And I mean, you guys know how I feel about William Eklund. I think he's going to be a total all-star for the Sharks, just the whole package for them. So, and if he continues to, I think for him, it's just continuing to get bigger and stronger, which he will continue to do. Remember, he's 20, he's still got plenty of time. So, but this year, I think he solidifies himself as an NHL player. I think he would have, if it was Doug Wilson, he would have been playing last year in the NHL. I think Mike Greer just, trying to kind of be smart with the contract, which I understand. And now his contract lines up exactly. His ELC ends exactly as Vlasic's contract ends. So perfect. You can just give the classic money to William Eklund in a couple of years. So, and number one, of course, Will Smith. So the Sharks' 4th overall pick in this year's draft. Will Smith has, is going the 1C of the future. You're looking at a potential, 80, 90 point player for the Sharks going forward. Yes, he needs to work on his defense. Yes, he needs to put on some size, but you see the package, the skill, the speed, the shooting, that shot he in the prospect scrimmage game where, I know he didn't really, he kind of put some pressure on the defense, on the player as he was trying to make a breakout, fumbled the puck, and Will Smith was right there. And that shot's already NHL caliber. Like, Will Smith has an NHL caliber shot right now. So he's going to be very good, guys. I know he's not, he's not Matvei Michkov, but Will Smith is still going to be really, really awesome. And we'll see when his timeline is. If he has a good season with with Boston College, I could see him signing his ELC after this season and playing NHL games at the end of the year. And then that would basically his contract and Eklund's contract would be 1 year apart type of thing. Or you let him play and put him and Eklund on the same contract cycle. You could do that as well. So we shall see with Smith, but the Sharks got a star out of Will Smith. I fully believe he's going to be a star for a potential, like I said, point per game type of player for the Sharks going forward. And especially if you have him and Musty on the same line, and like him, Musty, Eklund, you probably have the flip flop. I know Eklund and Musty are both left wings, but we can figure it out. Make one of them a right winger. It'll be fine. We'll figure it out. So, then let that line fly. Who cares? It'll be fun. So, So, I mean, the Sharks, again, the prospect pool has gotten so much deeper and better than what we've seen the past couple of years. Some of the guys who honorable mentions from last year who, like Ben Gaudreau, Jasper Weatherby, Santeri Hadaka, like Ozzy Weisblatt was the 2020 first round pick, not even making the list like that. I think that it shows just how much deeper this prospect pool is. Guy like Brandon Coe, who was 4th on the list last year, not even in the honorable mentions. Brandon Coe's season was okay. It wasn't what we expected, but I think it's just a testament to how much better this prospect pool has gotten over the last year, and how much better it's going to continue to get, especially when the Sharks are probably picking top 3 next year, and hopefully have another first round pick in the Devils pick, and maybe some more first round picks based on potential trades coming down the pipe. So Sharks fans, just remember the prospect pool when the Sharks have lost like 8 of 9 in the middle of December. So these are the fun things to talk about to get you through those cold December losses. So, but that's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys again for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly a part of the Locked On Network. Cover your team every day. If you want to be every day, remember, shows on Twitter or shows on wherever you get podcasts. Also on YouTube. Thank you guys for helping me get over 2,000 subscribers. So I'm going to be doing the giveaway for the Patrick Marleau banner. So go check out the YouTube channel for more information on how you can be entered in to win yourself a Patrick Marleau banner. And then also you can find the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Locked On Sharks. You can find me on Twitter and Threads at MyFryHole. Until tomorrow. Bye, friends.